I'm Milan Lucic, and you're watching Nasty Knuckles.
You're listening to Nasty Knuckles, the Hockey Outlaws podcast, with your hosts, Derek Nasty Settlemyre and former Philadelphia Flyer enforcer Riley Cote, as they go behind the scenes with your favorite NHL players. Time to face off.
All right, welcome back. What's happening, Nasty?
Oh, Rigarelia out in the palm trees somewhere, I'm sure, acting like you're in the Peg. Don't lie. You're not in Winnipeg.
Dude, in the Peg, in my parents' basement, rocking the pod.
Now, do you have a
always give me
bedroom?
shit.
Do you have a bedroom like you had in my basement? A little
Something like that, a little twin bed. Yeah.
I don't even know how you fit in that thing.
Oh,
but,
my God.
Like, don't act like you're there. You're like, who knows?
Paradise now.
Hawaii again.
Yeah, right.
Hawaii,
Jamaica.
You just go all over. Don't worry about me. I'll just hold the fort down here and
I appreciate you doing that.
Try to get things going. We missed you last week because of just some conflicts with the scheduling that we had with a couple people. So it's good to be back. Great guest today, and I miss you, buddy. I don't know what I haven't seen you. It's been a week, dude. You're not usually apart that much, man.
I know, man. You're looking good, looking fresh,
dude,
bubbly.
I'm bubbly. The gym. I got back after it. I couldn't stand looking at myself anymore. It's just awful. Fat as a baby seal, but getting back after it now. Anyway, brother, are you ready for next Friday?
What's next Friday?
Huh. It's a big tailgate.
Yes,
with our buddies. Clear Rum.
Yes.
Fans of Philly. We got a DJ. It's gonna be a party, brother.
I can't wait. It should be a beautiful night. Yep. Time to relax, hang out.
Well, don't fall asleep on us because around 7's when you're starting to dial it down a little bit. But I'm not gonna let that happen.
No chance. No chance.
No. Yeah. Love to see everybody come out and join us. It's gonna be packed anyway. The Dodgers are in town playing the Phils. 4 to 7. We'll be there a little early. I got to make Riley do a little work, get things set up, and but it's gonna be a blast. Can't wait.
Yeah, man. Looking forward to it. We've been talking about it for a little while, and finally getting the docket. Ready to rock.
Right. Let's go.
See Nast in prime shape.
Oh,
prime
let's
form.
hope. Let's hope Listen, I was overserved last time, so don't blame me.
Yeah, dipping
it wasn't
my
fault.
Dipping into those clears, Nast.
Oh my
God,
look
out.
They're so good
juice,
though.
Juice.
It'll probably be warm, and those things on ice, boys. Put a little fruit in there. Oh my God.
Oh, you're mixing in the electrolytes too? Nast?
Oh yeah, man. Best summer cocktail you can find. Clear Rum, man. I'm telling you.
Woo.
I'm telling you.
Looking forward to it.
Have you so getting into a little hockey here, we're down to the finals, man. It's I love when the playoffs start because you got 2 games a night no matter what, right? And then now it's down to, it's the finals. It's been pretty exciting, I would say. I'm more watching the east side, I think, has been a little bit more exciting for me, but you got the Panthers. Since we last talked, they ended up sweeping the Hurricanes. It's hard to call it a sweep. It was a sweep, but man, those games, they all could have gone either way, right? The first 2 in overtime. Yeah, they basically played 5 games because game 1 was, nearing the end of the 4th overtime, I believe, right? 4th overtime.
Yep.
With, under 30 seconds to go. Just crazy. I actually stayed up too and watched it, but this Tkachuk, man, wow! Like talking about bringing it to another level.
Oh man!
And not just him; it's everyone on their team. Bob, all these guys. It just Bob allows 6 goals in 4 games, man. That's a recipe to win.
No doubt.
When your goalie's doing that, and man, it was just they're just a hard team to play against, man. They've been amazing. We've talked about it a lot, obviously. With they're in the finals now.
Yeah, I like what I'm seeing. I mean, they got all these components, right? I mean, they're set up for playoffs. These guys are stepping up. The guys that are supposed to be stepping up. They got the grit, the goaltending. I mean, all the elements that you've seen over time win Stanley Cup. So, I mean, it's going to be an amazing series. I think it's going to go 7, and it's going to be a dog fight.
I hope so. I think you're right, man. And like you said, like watching Florida play, man, I'm pretty sure you saw the hit Sam Bennett laid on Slavin coming behind the net. I mean, clean as could be, but I mean, that team's hard hitting. Like all these guys, man. And you know, Vegas is a shy team. Like they put the body out there too. So like you said, this is going to be a great series. They end up beating the Stars. Ottinger, he had a pretty tough series, man. He was just up and down. It's hard. We just talked about Bob. It's hard to win when your goalie's inconsistent like that, you know. But Jason Robertson played well, young guy, man. He's an up and coming star. He's already is a star, really, for Dallas. But William Karlsson ended up with 5 goals in the series. Marchessault 7 points. And you know, Hill coming in for Bourgeois, if I'm saying that correctly, he played great.
Yeah. What were your thoughts on, you know, the 2-game suspension? You know, they win those games, and then they just lay an egg.
I mean,
like
lay
6
an egg.
Cobb. Like, how does that happen with him back in the lineup? I mean, just like scratching my head. Like, where's
it's
the urgency?
I told a story the other day. I think I've told you before, but I remember the last time I was in Dallas when I was with the team, still with the Flyers. We came out and played really well. So, you know, played one of those really good road periods. We're up 1 or 2-0, and I had to fix someone's equipment, shoulder pad. I think it was Michael Raffles, but it doesn't matter. Anyway, I go in to do it, and Jamie Benn is laying in to the boys in Dallas' locker room, and I was like trying to get this shoulder pad done before he came around the corner because he scared the shit out of me. And it worked because they came out and they ended up mopping us up like 5-2. But to see a team just, we've said this before, I hate to say they weren't trying, but man, it was just bad. It was a bad game. You couldn't even watch it. Like I was actually flipping around. It was ugly, but congrats to Vegas. They played well. Now they're in the fight. They're in their second finals, bro.
I know.
It's such a young franchise, man.
It is incredible.
It is.
Yeah. I'm excited for the way it's gone. I mean, I'm still going Panthers the distance. Just obviously beating Boston. That was my pick. From the start, which is a huge disappointment.
Both of our, yeah.
But I just love what I'm seeing with that team. You know, obviously Cuzzy, you got Bob, Alex Lyon, the Butcher, Radko Gudas there. Just these guys, just obviously one's Flyers in the Flyers organization.
Yeah.
But everyone stepped up their game. It's just it's nice to watch. And you talked about Matthew Tkachuk there. Man, is he shoving it up their ass and just playing with a chip on his shoulder? And I mean, epitome of a power forward, right? I mean, clutch playoff performer. So it'll be fun to watch. I mean, I'm actually excited. It'll be interesting how they deal with this gap, right? I mean, they've been off since how many days now, and they're not playing till Saturday, and that's no joke in the middle of playoffs.
You're hot too, right? Like,
you want to keep playing.
You're rolling, and so it will be interesting to see. I just have a feeling the way they're playing, they need to be ready the first 5. Like, coaches always say that, the boys always say that in the room. Let's worry about the first 5 minutes. Like, let's kind of keep it even and not let them jump on you like they did in Dallas. God, if that would have been in Vegas, the roof would have come off that place,
right?
No but Florida's going to have to come out and play a pretty simple first period probably, but they've been able to do it every series. So, I don't think they're afraid. That's for sure.
No. Guns a-blazing, Nast.
Yep, you got to be.
Both teams coming out.
I like to see Phil the Thrill thrown in there. Call Johnny Stevens. Phil in there.
Mix him in there.
Fuck, get me in, boys.
They get some speed down the right side.
Yeah. But moving on from that, I can't wait, though. It's going to be exciting.
Yep.
Canada, you must be proud. You guys won the World Championship. Yeah, our boy Scotty Lawton. Our guest today, Milan Lucic, on that team. It was pretty good Worlds. I watched quite a bit of it. Games were games were really interesting. I hated to see obviously U.S. lose in the way they lost the last two games. Both games they lost. The goalies were pulled on the opposite side, and then they end up losing in overtime. After they get scored on to tie the game, they lose in overtime. But it was pretty cool to watch Latvia being at home and meddling. It was really cool. I was actually in Latvia for my first World Championships with Team USA, and it was just it was such a great time and just a cool little city, man. It was a lot of fun. And it was really neat to see the excitement there. I mean, those people, they like that
crowds of people.
That was there was everything to them. And this past year I had 2 Latvian kids on my junior team, and I was messaging with them, and they were just obviously so excited. But hated to see US lose, but it was pretty cool to watch the Latvian guys celebrate. It was the biggest thing for them.
Oh,
so
yeah.
it was cool.
Yeah.
Other hockey news.
Another gold for Canada. That's all.
Oh, just relax. You guys are so cocky, man. God.
Oh, man.
I can't stand it. I'm kidding. I was pulling for Lodge.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So
it's nice to see. Nice to see him pull it out. And it's good for the country. Could use a win now and then.
Yeah, I mean, you guys aren't going to get Stanley Cup in Canada, so
yeah,
might as well get
probably
you another world championship.
Yeah,
we haven't had one in Philly in a long time.
Oh, I know. It's a little dry spell now.
Yeah, a little dry spell. Other news: the Penguins hired Dubas. Not Dubinsky.
Yeah,
no, not Dubie. Dubas hired as president of hockey ops, and the rumor is our boy Spez may be the GM.
Yeah, what a job coming right out of playing. Wow. A little tee up.
Yeah, it's funny too. I know we talked about Dubas, how animated he was up in the box during this series, and they had a camera on that man the whole time.
And Spez just chilling. Yeah,
that's what I thought. I'm like, he looked like he wanted nothing to do with Dubas, but
stoic.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. And in Toronto, in his place, they hired Brad Treliving as their new GM. So it'll be interesting to see, what happens there, what they do. I've seen some tweets going out about trading some Flyer players in Toronto and this and that, but everybody's going to probably be poking the bear there just to see if they want to get rid of any of their top end players, because it hasn't worked.
Of course. So, yeah. I want to backtrack a little bit on Doobie there, though.
Okay.
How that went down in Toronto, how his last presser, he's talking about coming back, maybe just kind of feeling out how and reflecting on how the season went, but definitely not going to go anywhere in the next week or so. And then, sure enough, he's in Pitt. So obviously there was something behind the scenes that's hasn't been revealed yet in conversations. Yeah. Obviously, his heart wasn't there. He was just, just speaking to the media and giving lip service. But I guess that's the business. So you got to do what's best for your family and opportunity. He gets, I guess a larger role, right? More control, more power there. So, but I thought that was kind of funny. Spin Chick has actually posted a video of it, and then following it up was the credits of Curb Your Enthusiasm. It was so funny because it was just awesome. Like a bunch of bullshit, just feeding the media, just whatever you want. But no, I get it. You got to hold some stuff to your chest sometimes. And,
kind of like Jonesy did here.
Yeah, right, exactly. except for he didn't even get in the media. It was so great. Quiet. It was perfect. What else you got, Nast?
The Capitals have hired Spencer Carberry as their new head coach. So anyone stepping into that role as a head coach, I gotta wonder if it's a little intimidating with Alex Ovechkin being on your team. I'm not saying Ovi has any control. Like, I'm not saying he does anything or says anything to the coaches. You got to do this or that, but still, it's got to be a little. I don't know if intimidating is a word, but it's a special thing, knowing you have that guy that's probably going to break the record for goals. Yeah. If he's able to stay healthy, knock wood for him. Mm-hmm. So that was an interesting hire, I thought. Predators
mentally prepared just on that. Just got to mentally prepare, and figure out how you're going to work with this guy, right? It's like some version of a strategy because you need your horses, right? And it's like you can't go in there flexing and all that stuff. So I think working with stars is always some bit of a strategic game, right? I mean, obviously these are human beings and good guys for the most part, but they also are superstars and they have been superstars for a long time. So there isn't a certain way you gotta, coddle these guys, but also not, not showing the rest of the squad that you're throwing these guys any favors by any means.
Yeah,
but,
right.
We'll see how that goes, though.
Yeah, for sure. What else do we got here, Riggs? Oh, in Nashville, Barry Trotz, he let Johnny Hines go. I got to work with John Hines a few years back at the World Cup. He's an awesome guy. I thought he did a pretty damn good job there, but I think they just wanted to, change it up. And Andrew Brunet is the new head coach there, which he did a great job in Florida filling in for, after they had to make the change there a year ago. Mm-hmm. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. I know they were talking about retooling, which we heard a little bit about that here. I bet you it's a little different there.
Yeah.
But anyway, and the other thing I did hear was that I'm sure everyone heard Peter Laviolette has you're hearing his name linked in with the Rangers. That'd be interesting.
Yeah.
Because Lavi, as you know, you played for him and I worked for him. He's a run and gun guy, man. So be interesting to see. I know they did. They also interviewed Hines as well, since he lost his job with Nashville. Right. John
As
Hines.
They should.
Right? Yeah. So few things going on, man.
A lot of movement.
The finals. And then, before we know it, we got the draft coming up the end of this month. So
yeah, fun time of year, right?
Yeah, man.
Wrap up the playoffs and start building. Well, obviously already building for next year. Start piecing in the coaches, general managers, presidents, all that stuff. So always on the move.
Yeah,
He's always trying to get
man.
better. Yep. Ready to rock, Nast?
I'm ready to rock, brother.
Episode 119. Their boy Milan Lucic. We're ready to go.
Let's go.
Welcome back. I'm Riley Cote.
And I'm Derek Settlemyre. This week, we are so jacked. Riles, I think this is the first guy that's never played for the Flyers in our 100 and some episodes, but one of my favorite players ever to watch since he's been in the league. A Stanley Cup champion. Most recently, World Championships for Canada, Mr. Milan Lucic. Luch, what's up, you big beast?
Not much. How you guys doing? Thanks for having me.
Oh man, thank you for joining us, man. I know it's been a bit of a shit show for you the last probably few days with being over there winning and all that, man. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. You talk about it being a bit of a shit show, if you can believe it. So we went on Sunday night, and then they had us on a 6 a.m. flight out on the Monday morning out of Helsinki. So the celebration with the boys was short-lived, but at the end of the day, honestly, it was such a great experience. I'm so happy I got to go. It's a funny story. I've been doing interviews all week. A lot of people don't know this, but I actually called Team Canada. I wasn't invited, so I kind of was like, hey. I want to come, because I'd never played it before, and I knew the training camp was going to be in Budapest, and I'd heard great things about that city. And then we were in the Riga, Latvia group, and Nasty, you've been there, awesome city. So I wanted to go there and experience it. And to be honest, I'd never played for Team Canada. When I was in my prime, in my heyday, we were always in the playoffs. So I never really got a chance to go. And, the way the season ended and the way things went, it was kind of, I felt like I still had, juice in the tank, and I still wanted to play. And then, Toffoli and Uyghur were going. So I was like, you know what, I called my agent. I'm like, hey, you got to call Doug Armstrong, tell him I want to come. And then he called me and he said, hey, I invited some guys here back. If there's a spot, we'd love to have you come. We didn't even know you would want to come. And, he called me back like 2 days later, and said, "Hey, yeah, there's a spot for you if you want to come." I'm like, "Yeah, let's go, let's do it." And the cool part was too is I got to bring my wife and kids out.
That's awesome.
So they got to experience it with me. You know, you talked about Stanley Cup. You know, I was 23 years old when I won that, and you know, I didn't have kids back then, so I didn't get to share that moment with them. So, whenever, even though our roster kind of looked thin before we went there, you're still on Team Canada. You still got a chance to win. So I was like, you know what, it'd be cool to celebrate this with my children, and you know what, I even got to bring the trophy home.
Oh yeah,
that's awesome.
Beautiful.
Oh my God, no way.
Hockey Canada is here in Calgary, so like their headquarters. So I'm still holding on to it. They still haven't called me to get it back for me. So I've been
just don't answer.
Yeah, right. Hang tight.
I shut my phone off actually. So
yeah,
I'm not
right.
taking phone calls right now.
That's so cool.
I was gonna say, Luch, like obviously I'm American, but when I was able to do USA stuff, even though I'm just an equipment pigeon, like especially the Olympics 2010, man, like it was like the coolest feeling throwing a sweatshirt on and said USA. Like it must just been a dream of yours, like being Canadian and throwing that sweater on, because I hear so many guys talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, you grow up watching World Juniors and World Championships and Olympics, and I think my first memory of Team Canada was 2002 when they played the U.S. in the finals in Salt Lake City, and yeah, there's always a little bit, I guess, little extra pride when you put on your national team jersey, no matter what it is. And the cool part too was to see the other nations and the other countries. Like I think the biggest turnout was Switzerland. When we played Switzerland in Riga, it was almost to par of when we played Latvia in the first opening game of the tournament. And to see all the Czechs come down and the Slovaks come down, and they're walking around with their flags and their scarves, and you're going to in Riga, they're representing the colors and the flags. And you talk about 2010, and during that All-Star break, because I'm from Vancouver, I actually went to Vancouver for 5 days because I wanted to, I kind of wanted to experience the Olympics a little bit, in my hometown, and I had that same kind of feel, everyone walking around, showing their nation's colors and all that type of stuff. And it was cool to be a part of. They cheer differently than we do.
Yeah.
They like whistle and shit. I'm like, what, like, we were setting up our breakouts and our PP, our power play, and they were kind of getting mad that we were holding it on the half wall for too long. And they start whistling, and I'm going, what the hell are they whistling about? And every time one of their players fall, they're whistling and they want a penalty call, and the reffing sucks.
Yeah.
As nasty, like,
yeah.
But it was cool to be a part of, because it was something different. I'd never experienced anything internationally before, and I'm about to turn 35 here on Wednesday, and to be able to experience that, and like you said, to wear the Canadian flag, the Canadian jersey, it was a pretty huge honor, and I'm glad I got to do it.
Yeah,
so cool.
It was like I said, it was a lot of fun to watch. And I know when I was in Riga, I believe that building, if it's the same one, had just been built, if I'm not mistaken. And I had a tough time some of the time watching the game because of the cheerleaders dancing behind me.
Head on a swivel, nasty.
Dude, I did. I needed a neck brace after that. But no, in all seriousness, it's such a, we just were talking about, it's such a cool city, and it's so much fun. That was my first time at international, being in anything like that. And like you said, just watching everyone from all these other countries. And like you said, they got those little paper helmets on and their scarves and all that shit. It was a blast, man. So congratulations. That's awesome.
That's so cool. I love that you reached out and offered your services, the wily old vet, wanting to go and play for their country. I think that's super cool. And then to do it in front of your family, gotta be super special. So props to you, man. That's
man.
That's awesome. You had a chance to play with our boy Scott Lawton there too. How was that?
And it's funny because and then you get to meet you guys. Like you talk about Lottie, me and him always I always kind of went after him every time we played the Flyers.
Why?
What do you think?
I know.
Yeah, and then you end up meeting guys like that, and you end up becoming teammates and good friends, and yeah, so that just adds to it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, what a
He's
special
a beauty. He's
Yeah,
a special one, that's for sure. So basically, what you are telling us also is that you're going to be signing with St. Louis since you're a free agent, because Army was the GM.
No,
I'm going to call Chief. I got to get on the phone with Chief here. I'm sure he'd have you in a heartbeat. Talk about that a little bit. Free agent. What are your thoughts, man?
Yeah, I mean, it's I guess it's just around the corner. It's a couple weeks away. First off, it's I've been through it once before, and it's kind of a crazy process, talking to teams, seeing what teams want, seeing what teams are interested, and all that type of stuff. And I think that's the main point in my career now is kind of seeing who's interested and what role they want me to play on the team. And you know what, I still know that I have a lot to give. I've if you go on Hockey DB and look at my my stats, I haven't missed a lot of games in my career, especially for the way that I play. And I like I said, I went to the World Championships because I felt like I still had juice in the tank, and I'm lucky and fortunate that my body still feels good, that I feel like I can still play 2 to 4 more years. And I got to be teammates with a former Flyer, Mark Recchi, for 2.5 years.
That's right.
And the thing he always told us was, you play as long as you can. You play until they kick you out of the league, until you can't play no more. And I've always, when you're 22, 21, hearing that, you don't really understand it. But now getting up to 35, you understand it. And at that age, 35s were old. But now being 35, I don't feel old at all. And I feel like I got a lot left in the tank. So, it's just talking to teams about role. I still want to play, on a night-to-night basis. So you see where you fit on whatever team comes calling, and and just have those honest, and all you want to is on their side is honest conversations, because
100%.
There'll be teams that'll tell you and promise you everything, and then you get there and it's a totally something else happens. And I've seen it happen with players that have come to camp and and all that type of stuff. So, but at the end of the day, you know what? And I said this in earlier interviews in this past week, is for me, the main thing is I want to have fun coming to the rink every day. I want to enjoy coming to the rink every day. I want to enjoy my teammates. I want to enjoy the dressing room. I want to enjoy, competing, with the guys that are wearing the same jersey as me every single night. And, I want to, and that's what makes it fun for me. It makes it fun to not only compete in games, but competing in practice, working hard together, having the same goal, everyone being on the same page, going out to dinners, having nights out with guys, that's the enjoyable part of being a pro athlete and an NHL hockey player, is you get to experience that, with guys. And, that's I've always been a guy that's always really enjoyed that part of it. And, that's something that I want to continue to do. And the main thing is, for me, is I've always been a competitor and I've always played to win. And I'd love nothing more than to win a Stanley Cup again. So that plays into the decision as well.
100%.
Yeah, for sure.
You got the right attitude. Absolutely. And I can't think of a team that wouldn't want a guy like you on their team, besides your character. I mean, you're one of the last true Warriors still floating around the league. Right. And, but obviously at the end of the day, you mentioned it, like you got to find a place that you're going to play and you're going to be a good spoke in the wheel there and have fun doing it. Right. You don't want to be, you don't want to sign somewhere and then get caught up in that, wishy-washy, it goes when you get older. But, watching you this past season, it's almost like you've kind of revitalized yourself, playing a lesser role, but you're still bringing it, and you're probably fighting more than most 34-year-olds would, at that time and place in their career. So props to you. I can't imagine that you're not gonna have a shortage of teams interested in you. So
yeah,
good luck with that. Should be.
Well, and another good thing is the price point, right? Like one thing that hurt me the last couple of years was being a $6 million AAV.
Right.
So now, the price point helps me as well.
Sure. Yeah, no doubt. Yeah. Have you been watching any playoffs?
Before I went to the World Championships, I was watching. I'm a fan of the game. Even on nights where I'm not playing, I watch hockey and stuff like that. And especially in the playoffs, I love. You love when it goes up another gear and guys start going at each other and all that type of stuff. It's still fun to watch for me. But when I was in Europe, it's kind of hard to watch when the games are on at 3 a.m. But you know what? Now that I'm back, I'll tune in and watch the Stanley Cup Finals for sure.
Yeah, obviously you played with Matthew Tkachuk. Like you said, you've been gone for a while, but you've probably seen some highlights. This guy's like brought it to another level. I mean, just big goal after big goal, and their whole team actually has played amazing. And it doesn't hurt when Bob's standing on his head in the net either.
Well, you know what? If you look at historically all the teams that get to the final cup, it's their goalie is a huge part of that, and ever since he got put in that Boston series, he's just been absolutely insane. And you know what? It's being a guy that's been through it, when you hit a peak or you hit a prime and then you lose it, it's great to see him find it again.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And I guarantee you he'll tell you, like, before this, it probably wasn't fun for him. Right. He was probably going home, second guessing himself, being like, what the fuck do I gotta, what do I got? Even for me, when I was going through hard times, you're like, what do I got to do? Do I got to work harder? But then you work harder and it's like you're in quicksand and you start going down more. But to see him kind of find it again, for someone that's been through it, those are the stories and things that you really like to see. So let's see if he can get it done, because the last 4 wins are the hardest ones to get, and they're playing a really good team in Vegas. And you know what? I've been through it too. Where I remember in 2009 we finished first in the East, and we swept Montreal in the first round, and we had 9 days in between from when we played Montreal and Carolina with New Jersey, and then we played Carolina, who was a 6th seed, and we kicked the shit out of them in the season. We beat them 4 times out of 4. And then all of a sudden, boom, they were rolling, and we were sitting around for 9 days. And then we were all of a sudden, boom, we're down 3-1 in the series. So let's see, Florida's got 10 days off here.
I know.
So let's see, and they were rolling. And I've been through it too. Like if you guys remember 10 years ago, we won that game 7 against Toronto, where we came back in that game 7. And then boom, we beat the Rangers in 5, we beat Pittsburgh in 4. And then we ended up losing to Chicago. But still, when you hit that high, so I know what they're feeling. They hit that high, and they've been like this ever since. So the 10 days,
it's a lot.
It's a lot.
It can mess with their momentum a little bit that they've been, playing with.
We were talking about that earlier. It's a long layoff, man. I didn't think it would be that long, but I don't think anyone saw them sweeping Carolina. But all those games, I'm sure you saw the one went 4 overtimes. I mean, they basically played 5 games really instead of just 4. But yeah, it's going to be a fun. I think it's going to be a really good final. So Riles has predicted it to go 7, and he's got the Panthers. So
I got Panthers all the way since they
since they lost to Boston. Yeah,
that's right. Beat Boston.
I think Vegas is going to win. I'll take Vegas in 6.
Okay.
There you go.
All right. going back a little bit, Bud, going back to 2009, 2010, when we ended up playing you guys, and you guys are up 3-rip. Rex scores 2 in game 4 to send it to overtime. I remember Rousey going in the locker room. You're just like, wow, and then Gagne scores. We end up coming back. Obviously, that couldn't have been good for you guys. Like, that's just a rotten feeling. But do you think that for the next year that helped you guys going through that shit show, if you want to call it that?
I think so. I've said it. I think I've said it since the summer of 2011 that I don't think we win in 2011 unless we go through 2010.
Right.
Yeah.
Because, and to be honest, when Mike Richards hit David Krejci and put him out,
that was
that, and then you guys got Simone back.
Yeah.
So you take away our best center.
Yeah.
And then you guys get one of your best wingers back.
That's true.
I know.
And he was hot too. He was hot.
He was hot.
Yeah. And then he came back. He scored 4 goals in the 5 games that he played or something?
Yeah, he scored. Yeah, he scored the OT winner.
And then he scored the game 7 winner. He scored, I think,
he scored 2 in game 5 in Boston. We won 3-0, I think. Yeah. So he was hot, man.
Yeah, so I remember. So he scores the overtime winner, and I'm like, and we were all in dressing room, like, all right, we're going home. We'll get him in game 5.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, boom. Did Bush go down? And then Leighton came in.
Yeah.
And Bush goes down. Leighton comes in. And all of a sudden, no one could score. None of us could score on Leighton for whatever reason. And then, I think we lose that game 4-0. And Gag scores 2 goals. And then all of a sudden, we're like, okay, now they're going back into their building.
Yeah.
And I remember, that was when everyone's wearing their orange shirts and and then you're that was back when the warm-up tunes, you couldn't even talk to the guy beside you.
So loud.
It was, and you know what? It was actually my favorite place for warm-ups. Philly was always my favorite place for warm-ups. And because of that series in 2010 and the one in 11, it was probably my favorite place to play on the road, just because of the the orange and the people up top who get off the bus trying to spit at us and all that type of stuff. It's just telling us to fuck off, and it's just great. It's just as an athlete, that's what you want, and then the Boston Philly thing and all that type of stuff, and then who was? I think it was Ashram who scored first minute in of game 6, and then you guys went up 2-0, and I think I scored 6 on 5, and then we lose that game, and then we come home to game 7, and then
you had 2 in the first.
I scored 2 goals in the first to make it 3-0. And then I still remember it, and I still remember the feeling. I think it was JVR. JVR scores a goal that goes off Mark Stewart's stick that was lying on the ice. And I'm like, oh, man, the fact that we didn't get out of the first period up 3-0, and it's 2-0, or we're up 3-1. Now it's a 2-goal lead. And I'm going, fuck, now there's some hope on that side.
Right.
and then Hartsey scores, and then Briere scores in the wraparound. And then I think I come in, and in the third, I hit the post. I hit the post in the third. And then we kind of had so Mark Savard comes for a change. And then, if I remember right, Claude didn't really call up the next line. So Mark Savard came for a change, and nobody jumped. And then Vladdy Sabaka jumped. And by that time, Savvy went back into play, and Vladdy went back into play. We got a too many men call.
Right.
That's when Simone scores the series winner.
Yeah.
And then there you go. It's the historic comeback. And to be honest, that the best thing that happened out of that was that our management team didn't blow it up. And they didn't fire the coach. They didn't blow it up. They made one trade. We made one trade, and the trade was Dennis Weidman for Nathan Horton and Gray Campbell. And that was it. And then everything else stayed the same. And, it just took, like I said, 2011 for us doesn't happen. Us being champions doesn't happen without going through what happened in there in 2010.
Yeah, you guys swept right through. You didn't make a mistake the next year. It was funny. Matty, one of the equipment guys in Boston's a good friend of mine, and I remember you guys were up 3-0, and I said to him in the hallway, I'm like, "Yeah, we're gonna come back again." And he goes, "No, you're not." I'm like, "Oh no, I'm telling you right now." And then he looks at me like, "Really?" And I'm like, "How do I know?" That's so funny. And he's like, "No way, man. No way. We're going to put you guys away." I said, "I know." And by the way, Matty, I was talking to him yesterday, and he said, "You're an equipment guy's dream." He said, "Never had to touch your stall, 3 sticks taped only on your rack all the time." He said, "Just such a pro, such an easy player to deal with, man." So that's a huge compliment coming from an equipment guy, even though he's your buddy. And Riles was a little better than you, Looch, because he only had 1 stick taped. Because this fucking guy I would yell at him because he never taped it. Yeah, right. He goes, "I don't need tape on it."
Yeah, I didn't need it. Yeah.
But yeah, man, and you get to raise a Stanley Cup, which just must have been the best feeling in the world, I would imagine.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was especially for me. I'm being from Vancouver too. I got to do it in my hometown. And then doing it for an original 6 team, it was their first cup in 39 years. And it's pretty crazy to think about it. I mean, the Bruins have only won now 1 cup in the last 51 years. And they've had some really great teams, even this year, the best team ever. And
incredible.
And and you look back at the teams with Cam Neely and Ray Bourque, they just run into the Oilers twice and they can't get it done. The Flyers ran into the Oilers twice.
Yeah, that's right. I was a kid. My dad was doing what I did at that time with the Flyers. So he lost. I think my dad lost three finals. I lost in 1.
Yeah, and you know what? And I lost in 1 final. It's a shitty feeling, man. And to be honest, don't get me wrong. It's the best feeling in the world, winning that Stanley Cup. But I think about that one we lost more than the one that we won.
Interesting,
crazy as that is to say, because you just think about it, and it
haunts you.
Yeah, it does haunt you.
I can see that for sure.
I had a funny story. I don't know if you remember this, Luch, and I don't know if Zach Ronaldo ever mentioned this to you, but the next year after we had won, Reno's first games in NHL were in the playoffs, right?
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah. So after the game, I'm taking the skates back to the skate zone because we had 2 sets of gear. So just throwing the skates in and I run back in, grab my bag as I'm walking out. Zach's coming out and he's walking beside me. And you were over, the buses were parked and you were over on your cell phone, minding your own business, just whoever you were talking to. And you just kind of look over, just because you're looking around and Reno's right beside me. And he goes, "The fuck are you looking at?" I said, "You would don't say that shit to him when I'm beside. This guy's gonna grab us both." He said, "Fuck that." I'm trying to get in the van. I'm trying to lock the door. And you just were like, "Oh, whatever, dude." But you knew you had us beat. But I was like, "What the fuck is wrong with you, Zach?" And then, you guys end up playing together. He loves you, man. He was telling me that you guys were the bad boys of the bubble. Oh, I don't know if you can give that away, but that's what he told me.
No, it's funny that just goes to show about hockey. You can hate a guy and want to fight a guy one day, and then the next day you're teammates and you love the guy. And I still keep in touch with Rhino, and I do love. And I actually remember that. I think he played his first game against us. It was that afternoon game 1 game.
Yep.
And he was it was 6-2 and he was being an idiot. So in a scrum, really? I caught him with a huge left. And I remember I dropped him pretty good. And anyways, so I got him pretty good in the scrum. And then I remember him standing there and I remember him chirping. I was like, whatever, who's this guy?
I think there's a video it may have been 30 cakes. 30 saying, turn around. What's your name? Turn around.
Miners, yeah.
Oh,
but yeah, it was. So, anyways, so like telling that story about Rhino liked to do that stuff, and so, anyways, because we're all in the bubble and everyone's kind of looking at everyone's kind of around each other, all that type of stuff. So Rhino wanted to be like same type of thing. And I was like, yeah, whatever. We can just eyeball everyone and, intimidate. And he would be like, what the fuck are you looking at? And I'd be like, yeah, what are you looking at? And,
that's awesome.
Flex it.
That's fucking
bubble flex.
And that's what I liked about him. When if you needed a guy to have your back, he was. Yeah, he was there for you, so that's why me and him got along the way that we did.
Oh, sure.
Looch, I'll tell you a quick story about Zach. So his first development camp, right, Riggs?
Yeah, it was.
You were playing. Yeah. Riles was playing, and Riley and I were out watching. They scrimmaged. They had these kids scrimmaging. Well, because of him, they stopped the scrimmaging, and I'm not exaggerating. He hit 3 guys, right, Riggs? He had 3 hits.
He could hit.
He
could like twice.
He was like a shark in the water.
Yeah, he's a shark.
He hit 3 guys, Looch, put them out of the camp. They couldn't skate the rest of the time. And then after he hit the 3rd guy, this one poor kid who actually played on our team, Darryl Sutter. Remember, Riggs? He was actually he played a little bit against you guys when we came back in that series. Lally goes up to him, probably never fought in his life, but he felt like he had to do something. All the brass is upstairs. Zach just absolutely folds this guy up like a lawn chair, and Lally comes and grabs him. Rhino, 1 punch, boom. Now he's out. 4 guys in about 5 minutes. And he comes by my office, and he's like, Riley's sitting in my office. He goes, that was for you, Cote. Yeah. I was like, you just killed 4 guys.
Nice job, dude.
Nice
like, you might have made the team. Just in like 2 minutes there.
I think you're, and you know what's funny after that was Paul Holmgren came down to my office, and he goes, did you watch the scrimmage on the Phantom side? I said, yeah. He goes, who's your favorite player at camp? I went, Zach Ronaldo. He goes, yeah, I know. You probably want him to make the team, don't you? I said, yeah, fuck yeah, I do.
But you know what? Like, just to add on to that story, like that's what you had to do. What you had to do to get noticed. You had to do what you had to do to make the team. And like, to go back to the fighting aspect, I mean, I wasn't drafted into juniors, into the WHL, and the only reason why I got a shot is because I would fight. They'd be like, "Oh, this kid can fight, and he's big," and then they're like, "Oh, he can play too." So, like, you know what I'm saying?
Totally.
And then even my first year as a 19-year-old, when I made the Bruins, I fought. What was it? I fought 3 times I fought 1 time in we played a rookie game against New Jersey. I fought Mark Fraser there. Then I fought 3 more times in preseason. And then I fought 4 times in the first 10 games of the season just to stay in. And I remember Claude Julien telling me my last year as a Bruin, just to kind of motivate me or piss me off or kind of, get me going, because that's what he'd like to do. And, he said, oh, when you were a 19-year-old, we only kept you around because you could show that you could hold your own and you could fight. So, it said my whole point is to add on to Zach's story is you got to do what you got to do to get yourself 100%. Recognized. I know the game has changed today, but back then, like, you had to, like I said, I made it as a 19-year-old because I could fight and I could hold my own. I fought some big boys, right off the get-go. They probably weren't super heavyweights, but they were all
they were men. They were men.
And then, that's what kept me around. And then all of a sudden, oh wow, he can play too, just the same old story. And then, my game took off from there. So, you know what, like, some people might hear this story about Zach and say, oh, what a nutcase, what an idiot. That's not hockey. But you know what? You got to do what you got to do to make the team. And I give praise to Zach, because Zach would have never have gotten noticed unless he did what he did there.
Yeah,
and
100%.
Doing it in a place in Philly, like there's no better place to do it.
Oh, exactly.
You know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That was still an era where there was still fights in training camp, and eventually they squashed that because there would be guys who just stage fight all the time, right? But it's evolved so much where you don't see any of that anymore. But you're right. I mean, that's exactly what you had to do. I mean, there's no other way for those types of guys. I mean, obviously Zach was a lot more skilled than myself, but like if I had to not act like an idiot, like I'm certainly not trying to make the team as a skill guy, it's like, it's just one of those things that had to happen. So, yeah, I mean, I love hearing your story because it just shows the dynamics of how the game was and what you had to do to get noticed and earn your stripes to actually get a chance to show that you can play. Otherwise, there's probably several guys that were better hockey players in the sense of skill wise, but you add this dimension of toughness and grit and stuff that they can't bring. Super powerful.
And then show that you can play as well, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, right. It's the gravy.
Yeah, exactly. And not to mention, like when Zach came in, the Bruins, we were the champs, right? So every team had to, like, we were the team to be. And then you had myself, Chara, Thornton, Nathan Horton, McQuaid, Greg Campbell would fight.
He would.
We kind of had we had every weight class covered, by multiple guys. So, we kind of helped. I guess our team kind of helped that out as well too.
Yeah, oh, for sure. It's funny you say all that, Looch, because you've actually seen, and Riley was obviously played at the same time. You've watched this game really change. Like it's changed a lot, right? And like you said, you used to have to go in. You're 19 years old. If you're not grabbing guys, you may be going back to junior, right? Like you just don't know. Exactly. But obviously it's changed so much. But you were there when it was still. I don't want to say it's not a man's game. It's a man's game, but it was a man's game then when you first came in.
I agree, but what a lot of people try to make that argument, the thing that I say is look at the teams who make the finals. Look at the teams who are still winning. They still have, they still have meat on their team. Right. And I'm not talking about meat, like fighting meat, just straight up fighting meat. I'm talking about, big, heavy guys that are hard to play against. And, I remember it was my 10th game of the year and 10th game of my career. And, it was the first time played the Flyers afternoon game. That was the one when Rawls and Thordy had that great fight. And I fought Eager right after that. But I remember, our squad going up against your squad. And you guys still had like Hatcher and
Hatcher. Floating around there.
Yeah, and like you and Eager on the fourth line, and and then on our team we had all the meat with like like the big, heavy, strong guys, and that's what I'm trying to say. Like what a lot of people like forget to like look at is like you look at Tampa, they were close all those years, and then they added size and strength to their back end just to bolster up some meat. And adding Pat Maroon and the last 2 years with Corey Perry and some other guys on their fourth line, like I think that gets overlooked. That it's a fast skilled game. It's a fast skilled game. A lot of these fast skilled teams aren't playing anymore.
That's right.
They're not there. And
right.
not that these teams don't have, they're not skilled and they're not fast. But I'm just saying that heaviness and that meat and that man's game that you're talking about. That still is what gets you to the end.
Yep.
Yeah, it's 100%. So true. Yeah, I'm going to go with the Panthers here, but I like look at Radko Gudas and even like this Nick Cousins. I know he's not a meaty guy, but he's like a grinder. He grinds and he's hard to play against. Sam Bennett crushes guys.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's no secret there, right? It's just it keeps proving itself to be true every year almost, right? It's never going to change. The formula never changes.
Never.
Maybe the fourth line gets a little more skilled, but at the end of the day, the formula never changes. You need that heaviness, that grit, which is it's fun to watch, man. That's meat and potatoes. It's all the analytics, all the skill in the world is just like you just kind of go back to the basic elements of the game. It's just it's pretty amazing to watch. So I love to hear that. It keeps people, it reminds people, as skilled as the game has gotten, that you can't move too far away from the essence of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Ethos
Yeah.
of it.
Speaking of some the Battle of Alberta, you've been on both sides of that. Is that? I mean, like I watch every time that Calgary and Edmonton play. I try to watch. I'm a bit of a hockey nerd, so I watch a lot of hockey. But what was that like being in Edmonton, and then now you've been in Calgary the last few years? That's a real thing, right? Or
yeah, the last 2 years it's been good. It's funny because my years in Edmonton, it was interesting because the Battle of Alberta was there, but it wasn't really as big of a rivalry as it is right now, and I think it took some. And I remember my first year, I think we beat Calgary every single game. And then my second year, we both didn't make the playoffs. And then my third year, Calgary was really good, and we sucked in Edmonton, and so it was whatever.
Yeah.
And then my first and actually ever since I've been in Calgary, it's ramped up because both teams were always competing for playoff spots.
Right.
And so now my first year there, they had the goalie fight and, line balls, some incredible games, and then meeting in the second round of the playoffs last year. So, and you know how it is, just even talking about Boston, Philly, how it was when we played each other, now that it's back and alive again, I think it's great for hockey. And I think it has people talking about, Calgary and Edmonton more. Because out east, we're on at 10 o'clock.
That's right.
Eastern time, so we kind of get lost. But now that it's going again, I think it's great to have those rivalries. More rivalries in hockey. So, it was fun to be a part of. It gets kind of crazy, to be honest, because you think about it. It's a provincial rivalry. It's a 3-hour drive away. The Edmonton fans get right up in your face. I mean, it was crazy. Like when we played him last year in the playoffs, we had like Edmonton fans follow a couple of us around. Like the one guy followed Backlund and on the elevator and not into his hotel room, but right up to his hotel room.
That's ballsy, man. That's ballsy.
Yeah, it gets kind of crazy. And every time it's at the Dome, I always ask our head of security, how many fights tonight? And vice versa when it's up in Edmonton. But I would say it's probably 65-35 Oilers fans versus Flames fans, just because Oilers had the Gretzky Oilers and the 80s Oilers, so they just naturally have a bigger fan base because of that. Have Connor McDavid, so there's
he's
a lot of
right.
Oilers fans. Yeah, he's okay.
He's decent. How'd you enjoy playing with him?
150 points this year.
I know, right?
Yeah, you know what? He's great. He's a great teammate. Obviously, unbelievable player. It's just a matter of time until he has he has that success that he deserves. So he obviously has an individual success, and he's chasing that Stanley Cup. But it's just a matter of time.
Hey, he's fun to watch, man.
Yeah, no doubt. You've had an opportunity to play for some amazing coaches, and obviously Darryl Sutter being your last. We always ask guys that we have on the pod that played for Sutter. Any Sutter stories that are worth sharing?
You know what? He's awesome. He's really great. You know what? He's hard on guys. He's old school that way. He never lets anyone off the hook. That's one of his things. Like, and he's, you know what? Like, even if you're on a winning streak and guys are starting to get a little too comfortable, he'll come and just like, he'll just fuck it up. Like, what do you guys? So like, what do you guys think you're great? Like, but you're just like, but you understand, like, as I've gotten older, you understand, what he's doing. he's always preparing you. He's preparing you for the playoffs. He's preparing you for when games get tough. He's preparing you for when it's crunch time and you need it the most. And sometimes his philosophy is he's going to be the bad guy, so the boys rally together and go out there and do it. You know,
Right.
you get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, Chief Craig Berube's told us so many stories, but even Brian Boucher does some pretty good imitation of Darryl, with a tie undone, spitting in the floor down, like in the crouch, pointing and shit. Chief said we'd get there early. Chief was always early at the rink when he played him. That's how old I am. I actually had Chief as a player, but he's like, we'd be in the locker room, music playing a little bit. I said, "You guys had radios back then when you were playing in Calgary?" He's like, "Yeah, no," but he's like, having a coffee and taping a stick up, and we're laughing about some of him and another guy, and all of a sudden, Darryl grabs his arm. "What's so fucking funny? Why are you guys smiling?" And he goes, "Holy fuck, it's 3:45. We play at 7, but he loved Darryl. He loves Darryl, but we hear all these funny stories about him. That's why we asked.
You had him twice too, right?
I had him twice now, and you know what? I really enjoy him as a person. I enjoy play for him. And what's funny too is he's actually, he's not what you think he is, because he comes across the way that he does in his interviews and in the media and stuff like that. But he does it because it's almost like a Belichick thing or like a Greg Popovich thing. It's like what matters is what matters in the locker room, and I'm not going to give you anything because I don't want other teams to know what we're doing.
It's a game.
And it's great though too. And every morning I'd come to the rink, and he'd always have stuff written all over the whiteboards, and he'd have sayings and numbers and sometimes just one letter. And he'd have it all over, and I'd grab a coffee and I would go and read it all, and I would try to figure it out. I would try to figure out, okay, what's coming today? Also he's also very smart. Like he sees the game like no one that I've ever played for. Like he could see the other team's neutral zone. If the other team makes an adjustment as far as their neutral zone forecheck or their forecheck or defense or whatever, he sees it on the bench. He doesn't need to go watch video, and he plays, and it's like he's able to make adjustments right on the bench and all that type of stuff. So it's really, like I said, he's not what you think he is because of what you see in his interviews. He's like I said, he's the most intelligent coach that I've ever played for. His motivational tactics could be, especially in today's age, could have been a little bit better. But he is who he is. He is who he is. He's not going to change for anyone. And at the end of the day, like Chief told you guys, you'd run through a wall for the guy. If he called Chief today, Chief would do anything for him. If he called me today, I've been to his ranch. I've been to Viking 3 times to go visit him.
That's awesome.
Yeah, like I said,
cool.
and you know what, vice versa. If you needed him for anything, he'd be the first one to help you. He's that type of person, and I'm glad that I've gotten to play for him for 3.5 seasons.
Yeah.
I love to hear that. There's no secret why he's still floating around coaching the NHL, right? I mean, he's doing something right, and maybe his strategy is a little bit old school, but it's working to some degree. He knows how to push buttons, and everyone we talk to, he says the same thing you do. There's this respect, because he's not what is presented in the media, right? It's just a game for him. He just toys with the media, and there's nothing but respect and all that behind closed doors. So I love to hear that, because you always wonder what makes, especially the old school strategy around getting guys to work and play, like the mind games. We talked to a lot of guys with Mike Keenan stories, and obviously probably a little bit different than Sutter's style, but they
were together in Chicago, so it might be,
it might be probably a little more fear-based back in the day, but nonetheless, screwing with guys' heads, right? And it's like, making them think and all this other stuff, which I think is is valuable because like guys get loose, right? You said like it's going good, guys get a little too comfortable, and that's when generally when you start shitting the bed, right? You get a little too comfortable, and guys get a little too loose, and then you got to have someone to check the guys. So I think those old school guys do that well.
Well, and for me, that's what got the best out of me, and if you guys talk to Claude Julien, he was probably harder on me than anyone, but and in the moment you hate it. You're like, what the fuck is this guy all over me?
Yeah.
Right.
I'm literally I'm like hitting everyone. I'm fighting. I'm scoring. Like, what the fuck more does this guy want? And he's still all over me. But it was because, like you said, he never wanted me to get comfortable. He never wanted me to feel comfortable, because when I did, then my play would start to go this. But I didn't see it. He saw it. So that's why he always kept me in check, and uncomfortable, so that I'd come and, be my best. And looking back at it, it was the perfect thing for me.
Yeah. Speaking of that, Looch, like coming in, obviously we talked about you're only 19 years old. Who kind of was there one guy in general, or was it like a kind of a group effort with Chara and Bergeron, all these guys like that kind of took you under their wing, being a young kid, like you're still 19 years old?
Well, it's funny. I got to bring this up. It's that same game that I talked about where Riles and Thordy had that unbelievable fight. I don't know if you guys remember, but Randy Jones hit Bergie from behind.
Yes.
Oh, right.
Yes.
Yeah.
He missed the rest of the season with a concussion. So
I do.
I didn't really the first year, I didn't really get to play with Bergie. But I was lucky because back then, as you guys know, there was a lot more guys in their early 30s on a team. It was, I think there was more guys on that team that were in their 30s than us in our 20s, or me at 19.
Right.
And I was lucky that I had there was a lot of guys help me out, and I think, so my first line mates were Glenn Metropolit and Sean Thornton.
Metro.
Ah, there you go. Metro. Yeah.
You know what? Two unreal guys, two guys that honestly couldn't have been better for me to play with, and couldn't be better for me to be teammates with. Because me and Metro were both trying to make the team. Metro was on a PTO. Yeah. So we were at the hotel together. So and Metro was there by himself. So we would always go to dinners together, because we were staying at the hotel together. So to have an older guy like that, and he had a car. I mean, I didn't have a car yet.
Yeah.
So he'd take me out for dinner, and he's the first guy that taught me like birds in the bush and all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
And he's, as you guys know, he's one of the best for me anywhere. So he was great. And then being line mates with Thordy was awesome. And you know what? Me and Thordy really helped each other because I was a 19-year-old trying to establish myself, and Thordy was also trying to establish himself too, because that was the first time I think he really signed. He signed a 3-year one-way contract,
right?
And he was he was establishing himself as well in the NHL. He was already established, obviously, in the AHL.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And it's very impressive what he did. 600 games in the A and then 600 in the NHL, and he literally fought everyone.
Yeah.
And you know what? And me having him, to take care of the big boys like Riles and Brashear and Larocque, and like they were super heavyweights back then.
Yeah.
And Peters and Buffalo, and then I would kind of get the second guys, but we were but I would take some heat off of him, because then he wouldn't have to fight everyone every night. But he would take heat off of me then, because I wouldn't have to fight everyone every night. So we did a really good job of feeding off each other. And he did a really good job with me as well, keeping me in check. Not that I needed to be kept in check too much, but hey, you're a young guy, like, this, you need to do this. You need to be, it's just the usual things, picking up pucks in practice. Don't be hard on the trainers. You're not supposed to be on the table, but then Thordy would be the first guy, to take you out to dinner on the road,
Yeah.
So he was as hard, he was hard on young guys, but he'd be the first guy to take you out to dinner on the road. And then, we had other guys too that really helped me out. I lived with Mark Stewart, who was great. I'd never lived anywhere. I was from Vancouver, played junior in Vancouver, so I was never too far away from my parents. So he helped me out with that. Mark Savard was in the building right across from us, so I spent a lot of time with him. I'd go over to his house. We'd watch hockey together a lot. I had Glenn Murray there too that helped out. And also having, Big Z in his prime, being the biggest, baddest, scariest guy in the league, but also playing 25, 26 minutes a night. It was just a good situation for me. And to be honest, I didn't really know much about the Bruins history. I didn't really know much about Big Bad Bruins. I didn't really know anything about the city of Boston. So that year was a big learning curve for me. And to be honest, maybe other than Philly, it was probably the best place that I could have ended up.
Totally.
Yeah.
The way that I played,
and
how I wanted to play, and how I wanted to establish myself. And you guys will remember the crowds back in Boston when I started?
It's insane.
Like 8,000 to 10,000.
When you first got,
right, yeah.
Yeah, when I first got there, it was like 8,000 to 10,000, and
it was that low. That's crazy.
Yeah, it was low. I remember my season opener. They announced 13,000. There must have been 6,000 or 7,000. I remember on Tuesday nights they had college nights. If you were a college kid, all you had to do was show your ID card, and it was $10 in section 310 or something like that, which is insane to think about it. And unless we were playing in another Original Six team, or you guys, or Montreal, that was the only time we had big crowds. Other than that, I was like, fuck, I kind of want to go back to junior.
Yeah, right. Sell out.
I'm serious. We won the Mem Cup the year before.
Yeah.
Junior crowds were better than it was in Boston. I was like, what the hell is this all about? But then
it changed.
Pretty quickly for you guys.
Like I said, Big Z coming in, and then me and Thordy coming in, we kind of, and then we had a bunch of other guys with Ferentz, and then I said like Nathan Horn, McQuaid, Tony Boychuk. Then we get this big bad Bruin type of team in.
Exactly.
And we have a goalie with attitude with Tim Thomas.
Yeah.
And then Tuukka takes over after him. Everything. And then we get that, and then we get the little guy, Marshy in the mix, who who really would stir things up with everyone and everything. It was like I said, there was no better place for me to start and establish myself the way that I could have, and it was a great 8 years, and I still think about it and how lucky I am to have had that in my life.
Yeah, man, like
that's amazing.
You're sitting at 1,173 games, which is amazing, and still going strong here. And to spend 8 years in one place is fucking amazing, to be honest. And then add on everything else you've done so far. And by the way, talking about the Big Bad Bruins, did you know what Derek Sanderson's pregame meal was back when he played?
No, I don't.
A couple cigarettes or?
No, he said a steak and a blonde.
Sounds about right.
Yeah,
exactly. What a beauty he is.
Yeah, and hey, that was pretty cool too. Is like I said, I didn't really know anything about the Bruins history. Getting to meet all of those guys and be buddies with those guys.
Yeah.
And then my second year they did a DVD Bruins history. So they broke down the whole history of it and all that type of stuff. And then we had the Winter Classic against you guys.
That's right. Yep.
And then I was actually injured, so I didn't play in that one. But they did a first skate at Fenway. And they brought in, and actually the team was on the road, but I was hurt, so I stayed back. So I went out with all those guys, and it was pretty cool because like everyone was there. All the retired numbered guys were there. A lot of the the 72 guys that are still around were there, and then all the guys from the 80s and all that type of stuff. So
wow,
it was awesome. Pretty cool. It was pretty cool. Like became good friends with Ray Bork and John Busick and even Derek Sanderson and Bobby Orr, who's one of the best guys that you'll ever meet. So yeah, it's and Cam Neely's our president and all that. Type of stuff. So it was pretty cool to to be one of those guys. At the end of the day, when you look at it.
Yeah,
no
for
doubt.
sure, man. It's a great franchise, that's for sure, man.
Yeah, so many similarities with the Flyers. It's
Yeah.
like it was they got of all those teams that are so similar. They got the the Broad Street Bullies, big bad Bruins, not a shortage of toughness.
Yeah.
Back in the
Well, we
day,
just
sort of battles.
yeah. You guys just need someone to take the reins away from the championship guys in the 70s.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
right. Yeah, I know. That's
Big-
exactly it. It's about
Those guys
time.
have been the champs of Philly for too long.
I know.
They'll tell you no, never too long. But
That's it.
need some new blood there, like our
They
11
need it.
guys.
Oh,
They
yeah.
need it. That's for
Yeah.
sure. It's been a long, long
Yeah,
time,
the
man.
city knows it. That's for sure. They're feeling it. So we'll see how that goes the next couple of years in the rebuild. So, but we really appreciate you hopping on there, Luch.
Yeah, man.
I know you're a busy guy, and you're still just riding the wave of the championship there. So appreciate you taking the time out to hop on with us.
And
No problem, guys. I appreciate you guys having me on.
I apologize, Luch. Our PJ couldn't come grab you. Rouse is in Hawaii. I wanted you in the studio with me.
Next time.
In Hawaii.
We'll do it for the next one.
Yeah, that's it.
All right, brother. Hey, man, congratulations, brother. Good luck this year, free agency, man.
Yeah.
You deserve the best, dude. You're an awesome guy. We really appreciate you taking the time, man.
Have a great summer.
All right, a big thank you to our friend Milan Lucic, Looch, for hopping on. An amazing guy, and what an amazing career. Toughest guy, still floating around.
It is amazing if you just, like he said, go on Hockey DB and look, like you just look, man. Like playing 8 years in one place is pretty amazing. But to keep going, Edmonton, Calgary, that year in LA, he had a great year that year too. We didn't really get to talk about that. There's so much to talk to him about, but great guy, man. I met him a few times over the years, and always stopped, shot the shit, man. Just a great guy.
Yeah.
Wish him the best of luck this summer. Hopefully, he ends up somewhere where he wants to be. I would imagine he wants to go somewhere warm.
I would think so.
Being in Calgary, in Edmonton, but great guy. That's one of those guys, man. We talk about a lot, Riggs. Like, what an important piece in your room.
Totally.
He shows up. You kind of mentioned like the production's going to go down when you don't play as much. Obviously, the ice time, but the guy shows up every night. He's got everybody's back. He's just one of those guys you want on your team, man.
Yeah, totally. Character guy, tough as nails, and as you mentioned, durable, right? I mean, how many guys that play that type of hockey can play that many games every year, right? It's impressive. So,
and the fact that he said, like you said, Riggs, like the fact that he feels good.
Yeah,
that's a lot of games, man.
That is.
It's a lot of games, a lot of years, and I'm so happy he shared like that he reached out to Team Canada, man.
I love that.
That's so
cool.
That's so cool. And he ends up winning. And the guy's, he's a badass because he's got the trophy still.
Yeah, right. That's it.
In his
no
kitchen.
one's taking it from him.
No one's taking it.
I love it.
But thank him, man. He great guy. Appreciate him jumping on with us.
Absolutely. Well, Nas, what time is it?
I believe it's time for Clear Rum questions, brought to you by Clear Rum.
Oh yeah.
And we've already mentioned it, but let's say it again. We've got the tailgate next Friday in Lot M.
Oh, updates.
Party Lot M. We got all our friends from Clear Rum going to be there. Fans of Philly. We got a DJ. We got you. We're going to trim that beard.
Yeah,
I think make that into a contest. Yes. If we got enough guys there, I'll just have them hold you down, and I'll just buzz it right down.
Shave this into some sort of piece of art.
You look like ZZ Top right now.
Top. All right, Nast.
All right, let's do it.
Not Bill Nye 69 on Twitter. What should the Flyers do on draft day? Trade up, trade down? Who should they target? Should they sell assets? Thoughts?
Well, I think Danny did a interview this week, and he's going to listen to anything, right?
Absolutely.
He even mentioned Carter Hart. I don't think Carter Hart gets moved. I think it would have to be something crazy to move him. You've got a number one goalie here. We've talked about this a million times. You've waited on a guy like this. I don't think he would do it, but he's got to do his job and listen, right? So you go to the draft. You never know. Someone may come to him with something, but in my opinion, I think you go for the best available player. And I believe Baller was saying most of these guys in the top 10 are forwards.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you go into it targeting, I need this defenseman. Obviously, they're doing their homework, but I think you take the best player. And I don't know if you move up or down unless something really good is offered to you, right?
Yep. Yeah, I fully agree. Unless Blackhawks give Danny B a ring and want to move old Connor Bedard. Everything is for sale if the price is right. I think you got to listen, as you're mentioning. We've talked about this before. I'm not sure they're going to go out of their way to do something stupid. If it makes sense, I think there might be a deal with whatever assets they do have, but I don't think they're going out of their way to make a move that's not necessary. So
I agree.
We'll see how it plays out, but I think as you mentioned, the top 10 forwards are forwards, or top 10 picks are forwards. Again, I think you go after the best available player that's available.
Yep.
Whatever that looks like. So we'll see.
I agree.
Moving on, Notorious PIG on Twitter. What effect on the room would trading TK or Lots have to buy into Torts' system and become team leaders only to be traded? What message would that send?
Again, if somebody throws something to Danny and Jonesy as well, I guess, and they feel like it's going to help the team, they're going to do it. I wouldn't want to move either one of those guys. Like you said, those are two guys that bought in and they're leaders on this team, and be tough to watch a guy like TK who's coming into his own now and scoring goal. Like, it's tough to give away give a lot of goals away if you're going to get rid of him. And he's not old, he's still a kid. I mean, mid-20s here, but if you get an offer and they feel like it's good enough, I think they'll do it.
Yeah. Just echoing what you said and what we just talked about. I don't think they're actively shopping these guys around. I just think that if there's some amazing deal that makes sense for the betterment of the team and the future of the franchise, then they would potentially move a guy like that. But I don't think they're actively looking to move these guys.
Right.
But, we'll see. Again, we've seen some crazier things happen, but it has to be right for the organization. For Danny B and Jonesy's first couple moves, they're going to be crispy moves.
Yeah.
They're going to be very well thought out. So, we'll see. Time will tell.
For sure.
Moving on, Hockey Tough Guys on IG. Mr. Cote, how do you feel about George the Rock saying you're one of the toughest guys he's ever faced? And I do remember that comment back in 2008. I think it was actually the pound for pound toughest guy. So
he did
maybe a little different animal than the toughest guy, but obviously coming from, I would say, top two toughest guys at that time, between him and Donald Brashear.
Yeah.
Very meaningful, So I think it was after that Pittsburgh fight that he almost knocked my head off. But I did tag him pretty good, and it was a pretty good fight, considering I'm undersized and he's a super heavyweight. But I've gotten to know Georgie a little bit, and super respectful guy, and for him to say that is meaningful. I see specific at that time. At that time I'm no longer a fighter anymore, and could care less where I fit in the grand scheme of tough guys. But in the moment, it was certainly patting the ego a little bit, and it kind of helped make sense of all the work I was putting in and fighting. Sometimes I would wake up and be like, what am I doing here? And to have a comment like that certainly adds value to what you're trying to accomplish. So big Georgie Poo, thank you.
Yeah, that was awesome. I remember reading that the next day. I thought that was really cool. And deserved.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you. And last one here, Augie1122 on Instagram.
I know her.
Nasty. How often do you call your mom?
Well, obviously not enough, because she put that on there. It's so funny. Quickly, I called her yesterday on my way home after Elvis's practice, and she's like, "Did you see my note on on Nasty Knuckles?" And I was like, "Your note?" She's like, "Yeah." I said, "Nasty, how often do you call your mom? I thought that's why you were calling." And I said, "No, Mom, I was calling you." So I gotta have to make sure I'm calling more.
Oh yeah,
but
what to bring her on the pod, Augie.
Yeah.
Bring her on the pod.
Yeah, we have to.
Here's some nasty stories of when
Yeah,
you're a
she
little
might.
hellion.
Oh, she might tell you some things I don't want anybody to know.
Oh,
I'm
danger.
kidding.
It'll be a
I
special
love you,
episode.
Mom.
Yeah. Well, that's a wrap, Nast. Episode
Yep.
119 in the books. Great to see you.
Good to see you
All
too.
the
Let's
way here
get
from the
on home.
Peg.
You'll be home tomorrow, right?
Be home tomorrow night.
Okay. All
Back
right.
in the studio on Wednesday.
Back in the Stoodsy.
Looking forward to it. Until
All
next week, knuckleheads, be safe, tune in, subscribe, and have a great week.
See ya.
Take care.